Hello and welcome to the Babbling Pastor Podcast. I'm Michael, and this is...
I'm Rob. Welcome to another episode.
Dude, you got such a better radio voice than I do. I'm jealous.
I want to do maybe script a movie trailer or something. Yeah. Long time ago.
In a
galaxy far, far away.
You tell our originality. We're like, rip off George Lucas from 1980 something.
There was a Vader.
I got a story, guys. So there's this dude. He's got supernatural powers. He turns evil.
He wears a red cape and wears blue tights.
White cape?
Supernatural powers? Superman?
Wait.
No, we're not talking about...
Does he wear a white cape?
Oh, Jesus! Right.
No, I was talking about Darth Vader, but he wears a white cape? You said white cape,
No, I said red. Red cape.
Oh, I was real hung up on the white cape thing.
You were so racist. All right.
That's quite the way to start an episode. Okay. So that came out of left field, bro. Okay. So today we're going to talk about Richard Wayne Mullins. We're not really talking about him. I guess there's going to be a quote from Richard Wayne Mullins. I didn't know who that was. Rob brought it up that he was from our childhood, and I was bringing up some old dude, which I didn't even know. But apparently he sings Our God, or is it Awesome God? Is that Our God is an Awesome God?
Our God is an awesome God who reigns from...
I thought that was Chris Tomlin. Was that not Chris Tomlin?
Who knows? They're all the same.
All CCM artists look the same. Awesome God lyrics. Hold on. See, now I'm interested. Let's just click that. Yeah, our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Those are some theologically deep lyrics. Do you think that we should listen to Christian music artists to get our theology?
I think they're awesome.
I love how you can slip into there's I think they're all, that voice is like what I imagine some guy named Rick outside of the hardware store sounds like whatever. You're standing in line getting some hardware stuff. What do you get at the hardware store? Hammers. I'm a man's man. Shut up. Okay. So
that's the wrong bolt size, son.
That's exactly what he'd say too. He'd be like,
"Oh, nobody's watching this now. Nobody."
You want to know the time I feel least like a man is when I'm building anything with my father-in-law. It's just I know nothing. I have to go get testosterone injections just to feel good about myself again. I'm just like okay, sorry, back.
Oh my goodness.
Back to Rich Mullins. Okay, so
there was out of control.
That's who we are, Rob. Remember last episode? We're just cutting through the forest over here on our own, just forging our own path. I think here, before, again, another bunny trail, before we get into the woods of it, the thick of it, I don't know.
Sure.
We're really owning the name of the Babbling Pastors. I mean, there is, I mean, if you're talking about being as on brand as possible, I don't know if you could be any more on brand than us rambling for the first 4 minutes of a podcast episode that people have clicked in to purposely watch on a topic.
That's why everybody watches.
They're 4.5 minutes in going, this has nothing to do with the thumbnail or the title of this video.
You know those podcasts you listen to where the people will intentionally show you the courtesy of being like, okay, if you want to get past the banter, start at this time stamp.
We don't do that.
I think we're not gonna do that because that'd be too much work. But that would be a kindness to the listener.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Sorry, kids.
If you're new here, that would be weird to you. If it's anybody that's watched for any amount of time, they're expected at this point.
Yeah.
They've learned just to skip like 10 minutes ahead and then sort of try to backtrack and be like, so it picks up somewhere here. I promise.
Uh,
Okay, here we go. Rich Mullins. I saw
right.
this quote. A while back from him. And then somebody shared this video clip that just happened to come up on my feed. And I was like,
This does not look like a new video clip
oh no, this is probably from when we were 15.
back in the day. Okay.
I mean, if Rich Mullins looked like that then, the dude's got white hair now for sure. And he's like sitting on a porch in Nashville somewhere talking about how he gets money still from Awesome God. And he's living off the residuals of that. Anyway, so here's a quote that I found was fairly interesting from him that apparently is rather well known because I've seen it in a few different places. Here we go.
It's so funny being a Christian musician because it always scares me when I talk to you guys and you guys think so highly of Christian music, contemporary Christian music especially, because I kind of go, man, I know a lot of us, and we don't know jack about anything. Not that I don't want you to buy our records. You come to our concerts, I sure do. But you should come for entertainment. If you really want spiritual nourishment, you should go to church. Those people care about you. And you don't have to buy a ticket.
Well, I mean,
well, I mean, some of
easy.
you, I mean, we sell tickets, but it's not like. No, I mean, can you imagine? So here's two things. Obviously, what he said here, I think is really interesting, and I think is a great point that we should talk about. But can you, can you imagine like an Elevation worship night, Stephen Furtick coming out and saying something like that? It's like, guys, if you're here for entertainment, awesome. If you're not, go to your local church. It'd be more like join the E-Fam and get our devotional and watch these sermons every week. Like there's a real honesty to Rich Mullins there where he's just like, you can almost see the tension that he's like, we don't know anything. I mean, please still buy the music, but we don't know anything. So, which is interesting because again, I don't know when this video was from. Like it was pretty old. Somewhere in the caption it says 15 years. I don't know if it was that long ago, but the person may just be talking about themselves. But
So Rich Mullins died in a car accident in 1997.
oh no, I feel bad saying he was sitting on a porch now.
Yeah.
But okay.
You know, yeah, way to go.
Anyway, so this is at least 1997, which is a while ago.
Yep.
So if he felt like the dichotomy then, it's very interesting that still exists now, where you have a lot of Christian music artists that have literally deconstructed, aren't even Christians anymore. But people would go to their concerts and sing the music, but Rich seems to realize that like, hey, like, don't do that. Like, don't think we know what we're talking about because, like, from an insider, and Alicia Childress has said this before too, where she's just like on the road, like you'd be amazed. That, I don't want to misquote her or put words in her mouth, but it's something along the lines of where she was like, a lot of these people we toured with, like, didn't go to a local church. Some of the things they said and did were questionable, but people would go to the concerts and sing the music and hold these people up in pretty high regard. And then, like, they deconstruct, they leave. There was a guy from Hillsong that did that. And
That's
when he
weird.
did, I didn't see that coming. No, I'm sorry. But whenever he did, he left this big Instagram post, and it was like really basically logical questions. And he's like, no one ever answered these questions. And I'm like, these are really like like base level Christian theology stuff. But people were looking up to him, and he hadn't even like asked these questions or couldn't find anybody to answer those questions. And so I think Rich's point here is really interesting in the Christian music industry, where it's like, it's a fairly sizable market share of money going in and, concert venues. And like, there's a whole kerfuffle about how much Elevation Worship was charging for their ticket. Like there's a lot of money involved in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
And for Rich Mullins way back, at least before 1997, saying like, don't think that we know what's going on. Like if you want, and almost alluding to the fact, like, we kind of care about you, but we really don't know you. Like, you should go to your local church for that. Being able to be transparent enough to say that.
Yeah,
Well,
that's pretty cool, actually.
yeah.
Yeah, that was I didn't know what to expect with that clip, but was refreshed. I think I'll say a couple of things. First, Christian music artist, like Christian anyone, ought to be at least base level theologians. Okay. So I think sometimes what I hear from the Christian music industry or people who are defenders of CCM would be like this cop out sort of, like, we're just artists. We're not here to. No, you ought to be um, able to write a theologically based hymn and throw the rock guitar or whatever behind it, right? Like that, like it what you say and sing ought to be true. It ought to be biblical. And if it's not, you're held accountable to that, right? Because what we actually do with music, if you do any kind of classical education, there's music involved. Why? Because people memorize music. People learn from music. But that's a typical thing that I hear in when like, I can't tell you that I don't even listen to the radio. I don't know, like, I know people that do, but I can't tell you the last time that I've actually sat down and just listened to the radio, because I have Spotify and I can choose music, right? That is true. And so that's the first thing, the first point I want to make. So the one thing that I would probably disagree with when it comes to what Mullins said, and hear me, like 80-90% of what he said, I'm on board with, but he has a responsibility before God to be correct in what he sings and teaches in his testimony giving or words before he sings or whatever, right? We've all been to Christian concerts. There's some preaching involved, even if you're just telling the story of how the song came about. And so you ought to be truthful. So you don't have a get out of jail free card when it comes to knowing the truth and proclaiming the truth. Secondly, and he's so right about that's where we should get our fulfillment and our nourishment and whatever else ought to be the regular means of grace, let's say, right? The regular everyday life of a Christian person it's the encouragement of other brothers and sisters. It's the preaching and teaching of the word. It's the singing of the word. It's the praying of the word. It's communion and baptism. It's all of those kinds of things that actually nourish us. And he's right. It's not as though a musical artist doesn't give the slightest crap about you, right? Like, that's not the point he's making, which you alluded to. But what he is saying is right. There's no way that he could care for you the way that your local church does, the way that your local church elders do. There's no way he could do that. In fact, not even Christian music, but just in general, people that you listen to or preachers that you like or whatever that might be, they don't care about you. They don't know you. They don't care for you. They're not going to be accountable the way that your elders are going to be accountable for your soul. And so I think one of the most detrimental things that happens today in the church is people will consider this guy from 1,000 miles away, and I really love his teaching. My pastor even agrees and quotes from him and whatever. So they treat that guy like the pastor, like the teacher of my heart. Okay. And we go to church. Right. Like, I think that is so bad. It's so bad. First of all, it robs your local elders from their their ability to shepherd you well, because you're choosing to be shepherded by someone that's not your shepherd, that doesn't care, that doesn't have the ability to care. Let me say it that way. Doesn't have the ability to care for you. And so I don't know. I see that as a major problem that happens today. We get, and I have my guys too, right? Like I listen to guys preach also online and whatever else. I listen to musical artists. I have my people, right? But what I have to understand is my fellow elders elder me, right? I might have the title lead pastor, but my fellow elders, because that's really what I am, shepherd me. We shepherd one another, right? And frankly, sometimes I'm shepherded by mature people in our church, um, and so like we care for one another, and you cannot do that from a screen or from a radio station.
No, yeah, for sure. I think there's one thing I really want to tap into, and there's two things, both things you said, but one of them is that Christian music artists are responsible for knowing base level theology and at least being accountable for what they say. I was trying to, when you were talking about that, I was looking over. I can't find it without scrubbing through some videos, and I still might not be able to get it. But there was I don't know if you heard of Aaron Gillespie. He was part of Under Oath. He broke off from Under Oath, did his own single thing, and he deconstructed, and he's not a Christian artist anymore. But
I think I've heard the name.
yeah, one of the most interesting interviews he gave one time was that when they would sit them down to write an album, they'd be like, "Hey, you need to write this song for Becky." And Becky is a generic Christian woman that's, got 2 kids, got to take them to school. So all the songs need to be directed to her. What's going to make her feel good? What's going to make her uplifted? What's going to inspire her? And that's the song. This is who you have in mind when you write your songs. And it wasn't, is this theologically sound? Is this biblically accurate? Is Becky going to like this music? Basically was always the question. And so I found that very interesting, because obviously if he was being told that and they were being told that, that's depending on probably a number of Christian music artists are being told that. Secondly, one of the person that I've recently found that I really enjoy their music. I know people on the internet may not like them a whole lot, but Brian Suave has a whole album after album of just the Psalms. And then he has I forget what the album's called, but it's not like song. It's music from a Christian's perspective about your kids, about your wife. It's just good music, and it's all biblically based. And I think when you listen to CCM versus some of his music, you can tell a considerable difference, because some of it is just flat out the Psalms. Like it's just the Psalms song, and it's not always the happy Psalms. Like one of them is, crush the teeth of the enemy sort of psalm. And so it's one of those things where, but they're all from a biblical perspective, not written from a perspective of what's going to inspire somebody, but what does the Bible say? And I think you can directly tell the difference when you listen to those side by side. The second thing that you said, I think that is incredibly helpful as well, is that while the internet, and this kind of goes to the AI conversation we had last time, but it ties into this. While we have access to any teaching we want at our fingertips, that can be helpful, but can also be incredibly unhelpful. I remember a conversation I had with one of the people that was on my route I have for my job, and it was during 2020 when there were a lot of churches that shut down, and it was that time where it was like some were opening up, some weren't. But during the time that her church specifically had been shut down, they had started watching Elevation Church online. And she just frankly was like, yeah, I don't know if we'll go back to our church, because we just watch Elevation every week, and we're part of one of their online like Bible study groups. And she goes, it's,
No, you're not.
and her point was that I don't this is just as good. And I think that's where the danger is. So Rich's point is no, you need to be in real community with people that know you and that actually care about you. And so to your point, there are shepherds, as Peter says, that have been put over you, and you should give them the respect that they have, because they're responsible for your soul. And so just being in community with people and being led by people that are qualified and biblically accurate to lead you is really important. And what's interesting is he didn't just say this in some vacuum. He clearly saw a problem, a big enough problem to say it from the stage, that he's like, look, like, don't get this twisted. If this is what you're doing and you're looking up to us, because again, I mean, there's lines after, whenever we used to take the kids to these youth conferences, there'd be lines like meet and greets for these people that had just led worship. And I'm sure Rich probably had those too, whether he wanted to or his record label did it. And people probably go, "Oh, you're so inspiring. I love the da 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 da." And I'm sure part of that probably came into play of why he said what he said, because he saw people that were like telling him every day, and at least he had enough self-awareness to be like, "Don't do that. Like, that is not what. No, we're not doing that. Like, this is not how you should be treating me." Because yeah, theologically, a lot of us don't know, to quote him, jack. And you should not be getting your theology from us. And I think that applies to online influencers. Um, you know, people, I mean, it just can be a whole mess. I mentioned this in a previous episode. I'm so sick of seeing the commercialization of like just Christian influencers online, where like I get reached out to all the time, like, "Hey, you want to hawk our product?" I'm like, "No, I don't. No, I don't. I don't want to hawk your product." Um, but it's the same thing again, just in a different form. And I think I think his words, though they are a long time ago, and he's gone with the Lord presumably now, they're wise words where you can be like, there's a place for that. It's the local church. Don't forget that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's, I think, probably a bigger struggle with this because of the world that we live in now. Because everything is so virtual, and some of that is great. I have quite a few resources at my fingertips on my Logos Bible software on my phone, right? Far more than I could fit into my office. And I have a pretty big office, actually, but far more than I could fit into my office, just at my fingertips. Like, the technology thing is great, okay? But so often I think we live in this virtual world. We call it social media when it's actually not social at all. I mean, not really. So much so that people, it's astounding, the amount of young people that don't know how to have actual conversations. Like, that's a real thing. Like, young people that get anxiety when the phone rings instead of when it dings because of a text, right? Like, that's a thing, because people don't know how to actually communicate with other people unless it's on a screen from a distance where I can register what's being said and then I can think about it and say things back. So all that to say, I think that it's only natural then that one of the steps that people struggle with is, well, I can do church that way also, right? I can, because I'm going to tell you right now, there are people that come to our church and are attracted to it first because they heard preaching online. That happens, but I could direct you to 50 way better preachers than me. Like, if that's all it is, right? At the end of the day, you could get that online. Like, and if it's just a prayer texting group, right? You could get that online. If it's just a Bible study, you can get that online, right? But it's actually not just that. It's It's an actual real life, reach out and touch it community of believers that you belong to, actual real leaders that you submit to and learn from that actually do care about you. Hebrews 13:17 says, obey your leaders and submit to them. Ooh, that's a scary thing for our world. For they keep watch over your souls as those who will give an account, so that they will do this with joy and not groaning, for this would be unprofitable for you. So make it easy for them to lead you. Make it joyful for them to lead you, because they actually care about you. They're going to give an account for you. They care about how you're doing and how you're growing and all of those things. And so I guess what came into my mind was that like, this is the whole world that we live in. So it's actually only a natural progression for people to get to the point at some point to say, well, I could get all these same things on the internet or on my phone even, or, hey, I can even, like cast it to my big screen TV and watch it there. And it's basically like I'm here. We have a church in town, Michael, that, and this isn't abnormal either, which is sad. We have a church in town that is I don't know what it's called, a satellite church or whatever. And the whole thing is they have great actual music, like live. They have great music. They got all the fog machines that you want, all that stuff. And then they watch a guy preach on a screen from Bismarck. It's a total joke. Like, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing as having someone there that like, that feels the weight of, if I say the wrong thing, like, I'll answer for that. If I am preaching the wrong stuff here, or if I don't handle this text properly, I'll answer for that before God, because God cares about these people, and I'm supposed to care about them enough to study the right things and to preach the right things, and then to go and visit them and do the hospital bed thing and all of the stuff, right? Like, I'm supposed to care about these people. You can't do that on a screen.
Literally almost phoning it in at that point. I mean, it's just,
yeah.
No, and unfortunately, that's a very, I mean, not to get all nerdy here, that's a very common model. North Point actually pioneered that entire thing. It's very interesting. When I did my background,
well, that's how you know it's probably not good.
Yeah, when I did my whole background research on Andy Stanley to do that video about him, they basically pioneered the what is it called, franchise model, where you basically you buy into their system. They did it with their campuses, and then there's actual campuses that are churches of totally different names that are basically North Point plants. They just have different names. They have campus pastors, but North Point is the sermon you see every day, and their entire ecosystem of the church is built exactly like North Point's. It got depressing after a while looking into it, but it's that system. And so, yeah, there's this reality that we take, I don't want to make it like a small church versus mega church thing, but there is a reality that your pastor should know you, or your elders, at least your elders should know you, and know about you and care about you, and be involved in your life in some form or fashion. To know, again, to go back to the second video we did, to know the joys that are in your life, to know the struggles that are in your life, and they can rejoice with you in that, they can pray with you in that, and they can actually be involved in that. Because again, I think that verse you pointed out is very important. Like, they will give account for your souls isn't just a throwaway verse. It matters a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I thought those were pretty. I'd saved the text that somebody shared of his quote before, but I found it really interesting to find the actual video clip. And I think I don't know anything else about the guy, but those were pretty wise words, I thought. And hopefully somebody found them helpful today, as well as a conversation. So, any last words before we?
Wow, that sounded really morbid. That's a scary question. Any last words?
Any last words? You got any last things?
I will not recant. I don't know.
Here I stand, or whatever the
I
biblical quote
can
was.
do no other. Yeah. No, I just want to, one of the things that, one of my favorite things that Tom Askell said, and I've heard him say this phrase on their podcast and in the room at different times. And he says his advice to young Christian families is find a God-fearing, like a good biblical God-fearing church and build your life around it. And I think that there are few pieces of advice when it comes to living the Christian life in our world that are any better than that.
Yeah, good deal. All right. Well, guys, if you like this video, you know what to do at this point. Like it. You got to click the little thumb button. If you hate it, you should probably also click the like button just
Because,
shove it to the man.
Yeah.
If you're not subscribed, subscribe as well, and we'll talk to you at some point next week.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.